Hey folks, I want to show off another tool I've been working on which others might find useful. It's an inventory management system for electronic parts called mcubin. And the reason I created it was I have a lot of Mouser and DigiKey bags that I need to somehow organize. And I really wasn't happy with a lot of the software out there. I think they're all pretty good, but I just wanted something that lived on my desktop and didn't require a full-blown web application and Docker infrastructure. So I created mcubin. Let's get into a demo. If you want to hear more about the motivations, I'll leave that to the second half. So here's the add part screen. You can see there's three fields: the manufacturer part number, supplier part number, and quantity. So the first thing I'll do is select the supplier. That's going to be important for determining which API to use when I do the lookup, and to fill in the other information like description and that sort of stuff. Location here. If you're storing parts in different bins and have names for them, you can select that there. So I'll go ahead using my barcode scanner and scan the three barcodes, and I'll show you how that works here. Okay, and you can see after the last quantity scan, an automatic lookup was done using the API, so required no keyboard or no mouse. And if I just hit space, it automatically saves and clears everything for the next scan. You'll notice the supplier and the location stay constant. So this means, again, that you could just scan a few hundred parts, no time at all. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. Okay, in that case, I just scan the same part. Let me scan something different. Okay, I'll save that. Scan some resistors. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if I go back to the part screen, we can see all the different parts I scanned. So I'll go ahead and delete this one since it's a duplicate to show you how that works. And we could see we've downloaded the image and all the other information that you would expect from Mouser. All of these columns are customizable. You can disable or enable them. You can rearrange if you like. You can put the description up front. So if we move over to the next screen here, which is the location screen, this is very basic. It just allows you to add different locations, which is important if you're going to print labels for your different bins. And the supplier screen is similar. You can put any supplier you want, but I only support DigiKey and Mouser in terms of doing the lookup. And those options get populated in the dropdown here. Okay, so that's suppliers. If we take a look at labels, this is the screen that allows you to create labels for your different parts. So let's do the part label first. I have a few templates here, which will allow me to demo what this looks like. So if I select a part, it automatically populates the label here, and I can move anything I want. Drag and drop. You can change, font size. You can make it bold. Do whatever you like. You can also change the size of the label itself, of the individual label. So I can make this larger if I wanted, and move things down a bit. You can also select where you plan on printing the label. So my label maker is a Zebra 450, which is kind of a standard shipping label for UPS. And I have the 4x8 labels, which again are pretty common when you're shipping stuff. Those are obviously too big for static bags or bins and that kind of thing. So what I've done is allowed you to print multiple labels on one thermal sheet. So I'll show you what that looks like. If I do an export here, I save that. So you could see we have multiple labels on one sheet. And you can cut those with scissors and apply them how you like. The way you select multiple labels is you select them in this drop down here. So this is where all of your parts are, and you select which ones you want to print. And it shows you here you could fit about 8 of these tiles per sheet, and that's just determined by the height and the size of your sheet. Okay, the same is true for locations, it works the exact same way. There's just less things to worry about here because locations only have a name. Okay, and if we go over to the settings screen, we have a few options to customize your theme. And we also have a few quality of life options here. So, the ability to do a lookup using the Mouser API after each scan can be turned on and off. Whether you want to select the first scan that comes back from the API can be turned on and off. I find most times you want to keep it on, especially if you have a distributor part number, because the likelihood the first result will be correct is pretty high. Whether or not to remember certain fields between scans. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you find this useful, I'll put this on GitHub. You're welcome to try it out. It's very experimental software. I developed it using Claude Code. It's not super well tested. It's not code that I've written. So if you do plan on using it, I wouldn't use it for anything mission critical. And also, back up your database, which is stored in a local SQLite database. Okay, let's get into some of the motivations in the back half now. Okay, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I really wanted something that was lightweight, was not built using a web server or Docker or a bunch of other heavy technologies, and also was super fast in terms of entering parts, which means it has to have really good barcode support. So if we take a look at the alternatives, the first one here is InvenTree, and this seems to be one of the more popular ones. And we could see here they have a part view. And if we go here to add a part, we can see it brings up a dialog. And the first thing you have to select is category, which to me really doesn't make sense. I don't know why that would be the most important. Then we have the part name, which I guess would be the manufacturer number maybe. And then a bunch of other stuff that I really don't find too useful. So this looks very mouse heavy. If you had to do this 100 times, it would not be fun. Now, I think there are plugins and better ways to do this than the UI. You can upload a file, for example, but the whole point of this exercise was to get a tool to help me do this. If I have to make the file myself, it's not really speeding things up. Otherwise, the software looks perfectly fine. It has a lot of features for business supply management, purchase orders, customers, that kind of stuff. I think looks good for what it does, but for a small shop, or, just a single person doesn't need this to be available to, dozens of employees. It's a bit overkill. All right, if we look at PartDB, this is the other alternative. I think this one's older. This was the closest, I think, to my liking. It's also web-based, but if it was fulfilling my needs, I could probably deal with that. The issue with this one was similar to InvenTree, which is as soon as you open up the new part dialog, you're greeted with the name, which is the first thing. That's smart. Description and minimum stock. But where do you enter the quantity? Okay, that's in a different tab. That's really not great for my use case. Again, this one has a plugin, it appears, that works a bit better. And they have a little animated video here where you can enter in the part number and then select from the returned results from DigiKey, and that'll autofill some stuff. But, why do I have to enter a plugin to do this? By the time you set up Docker, get the plugin going and understand how to use it, I feel like you've already wasted a bunch of time. So while this one could probably work for my needs, I just thought it would be easier to start from scratch and make something with Claude Code. Okay, here's a few other alternatives I looked at. The first is Bombist. This looks pretty slick. It has a lot of features. Looks like it's mainly targeted for businesses, just considering the number of features it has. So it's a bit too much for me. And it does require a subscription and is hosted. So that's no good for me. The next is Partbox. Also looks great. Again, it's hosted, requires a subscription, although they do have a free maker or hobbyist tier. I do plan on using this for a business, so I don't qualify for this. Okay, the last one is Binner. This is open source. It looks pretty fully featured. It supports a number of distributor APIs and has some good documentation. So here's the GitHub, and here's all the features they support. They do have label printing. Like I mentioned, a lot of integrations with different distributors like Mouser, DigiKey, Octopart, etc. And here's what their labels look like. This looks quite promising. I just didn't have time to try it out. So there you have it. Those are all the different alternatives I looked at. If you're interested, give them a shot. I'd like to know your feedback in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.